When I was first saved, one of the first questions I had was, how do I hear the voice of God? I kept hearing other believers say, I heard God, God told me, I hear God's voice. And I couldn't understand how they were hearing him. And I will admit it, I thought that they were audibly hearing God. Like they were getting these messages and I like pictured God's voice, like, Jackie, this is what you need to do today. I don't know. I just like, that's what I pictured in my mind. That's what I heard. Until I learned that they weren't actually hearing a voice like you and I hear each other talk. And so I dove deeper. I'm like, okay, well, I really want to hear God's voice. What do I need to do? And I just want to take a moment to kind of just share a little story that helped this click in my mind, right? I played sports as a kid. And when you're playing sports, you know, your parents are in the stands and everybody's shouting and yelling. And sometimes they're even like cheering the same thing. But I was always able to identify which voice was my mom's and which voice was my dad's amongst all the other parents that were out there. I knew which ones were mine just based on hearing them. The reason that I was able to identify their voice was because I knew them. I lived with them. I spent time with them. I knew their personalities. I knew what they were going to say, how they were going to say it. And when I started thinking about this, I know we don't hear God's voice audibly. And the reason I know my parents' voices amongst a crowd of others is because I know them. So when it comes to hearing God's voice, I need to get to know him. And when I started to understand that, I started to understand what I needed to do to get to know God. I needed to be reading from the Bible, and I needed to be reading from the Bible on a daily, consistent basis so that I could learn who God is, what his characteristics are, what his will and way is for the world, what he wants of us, and just really diving deep to get to know him more. In addition to that, I need to surround myself by other believers who can help me when I need advice or I'm looking for feedback or I have questions. Going to a church that teaches from the Bible, joining a church group or another faith group, right, of people that are kingdom focused. All of those ways are ways that I've gotten to know God better. So now I can confidently tell you I hear God on a normal basis. And what I mean when I say hear him is I have thoughts inside, I have feelings inside, I get messages, and I'm able to identify if those thoughts are my thoughts or if they're God thoughts. So God thoughts are oftentimes reminding me to be patient. God thoughts are reminding me to wait before I speak and decide if I'm going to speak or not. God's voice reminds me about my tone when communicating with other people. God's voice reminds me about trusting him, right? In the periods where I don't feel like anything is moving, it's a reminder of trusting in God's plan and in God's timing. Just this morning, there was a gentleman passed out on the side of the parking lot, and it was God's voice that like brought me back in as I started to drive away to turn back around and say, like, be mindful. What would you want someone to do for you? And to go get somebody to go over and approach the man with me and make sure that he was okay, right? That was a God thing. That wasn't me. That was God saying, turn back around and check on this person. So I'm able to hear God more and more because I'm getting to know him more and more. So I encourage you to get to know God more so that you feel like you can hear him and you can feel his guidance and his wisdom in your daily life as well.